The Geography of Central Asia in the Bhagavat Purana, part 2 of a single presentation I made on Zoom. Naturally, this follows Geography of Central Asia in the Bhagavat Purana, part 1.
So, going back here to Meru and the island of Jambudvip below. Even underneath Meru, we learned there were different subterranean heavens or Bilgeswag, other realms underneath Meru, Jambudvip and the concentric circles I described earlier. Different locus of inauspicious realms, I have to say. Referring directly now to images that we find in Sadaputta's book, chapter 5. What he described was the generic world disk, found in cultures all around the world. So we're not just talking about India here, we're talking about more or less everywhere, a great consistency. Each of them includes a central continent, 4 directional rivers, a cosmic mountain as abode of the gods, a ring ocean around, upper and lower worlds, and the serpent of the underworld. And let's have a look at some of those examples that Sadaputta or Richard Thompson gives in that regard. He presents in his book tables showing, of course, on the left here the different traditions and what they call their local or their universal world mountain or pillar in the center column there, and at the end some comments on the details. For example, so Mount Meru would be the Puranic tradition, and like that we have the Jains, very, very similar. Ancient Iran, of course, had their equivalent. The Buddhists also have their Mount Meru. China, Mount Kunlun, with dwellings of the immortals and the bronze pillar of heaven at its summit. This is an example of the similarity here. I'll carry on. North Asian, African and American tribes, the central post of dwelling, 7 divisions associated with the pole star. This is very, very similar to Puranic cosmology. The Native American Navajo tribes have the encircled mountains surrounded by 4 directional mountains which are local to them actually. Even the Dogon of Nigeria have very similar cosmology. In the ancient Greeks, of course, the famous Mount Olympus as home of the gods. Even ancient Germans, Norse, Romania, medieval Europe, very similar concepts here. The North Pole is also something that comes up very, very often. Within the Semitic traditions here, in Mesopotamia, Isaiah, in the book of Ezekiel, the mountain of God, or we have Mount Zion in Jerusalem as God's dwelling. And in Genesis you have Eden and as being the source of 4 rivers. The book of Enoch, the 3rd heaven, with 4 rivers of honey, milk, oil and wine from the tree of life. Again, this is very similar things you can find in the Bhagavatam. So looking into more pictorial versions, if you like, of some of those world traditions, Tibetan Buddhist sun mandalas here resembling that of Jambudvip. This is a Jain cosmological map, very, very similar to the Puranic map of Jambudvip and a surrounding ocean. The Scandinavian tree of life, called Yggdrasil, growing on the cosmic mountain. The Korean wheel map showing the central continent surrounded by a ring ocean, a ring continent and a further ring ocean. Very, very similar to the disc-like Bhumandala that we find in the Bhagavatam. A wheel map from Babylon, carved in rock, partially damaged here, but this is what they've managed to salvage. And it shows a central continent surrounded by an ocean and triangular mountains there. We can just make that out. Chinese traditions, extremely similar here. Again, the 4 directions and the cosmic mountain, the access to heaven and the lower worlds. This is something representing the cosmology of the Shipibo tribe of Peru. Very similar. The Navajo sand paintings. We touched briefly on the Navajo before when we were looking at those tables. But the name for it is can be translated as places where the gods come and go. But what I see here for the Puranic eyes is something again very similar to what we find of this description of Jambudvip and Bhumandala and the central Meru mountain. The cosmology of the Rao tribe north of the South America region, showing the subterranean snake of being surrounding the earth. and the ancient Hebrew conception of the universe. This is actually strikingly similar to the Puranic one, the circular there with the earth in the center, of course, and underneath you have Sheol, or you have the hellish realms or the lower realms here, and surrounded by mountains at the top, the waters above the firmament. Now, Sadaputa actually concludes towards the end of this chapter here that there are three basic hypotheses to explain the worldwide similar cosmological themes. Could be one, two, or all of them, or none of them, but he writes that could be independent intervention influenced by environmental and psychological factors common in all humans. It could be cultural diffusion due to migration, trade and colonization, or traveling preachers. Or even a direct experience of higher realms of being by human beings living in different parts of the world. Or it could be a combination of all of them. But given that, of course, the power of ancient India and trade and so forth, of course, the issues of migration and cross-cultural exchanges has to be very high on the possibility agenda.
Thanks for watching. Now, watch the Geography of Central Asia in the Bhagavat Purana Part 3, the final video in this particular series, which will be uploaded 1 week after this one.